Yeah.
It's from a training that I went to called Liberation. It was one of the things that we did when we were having our brains reprogrammed.
Yeah.
I have everything I need in any given moment. All is well. All is well. All is well. It was a great training, actually.
That's so cool.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, if we would pretend anybody was with you in a social setting and they said, "What is it you do?" What would you say?
It's a great question, and it's something that actually is not static. It's something that evolves as I'm evolving as well. So what I would say maybe 2 years ago would be different to what I say now. But I would say that I'm somebody that's here to help liberate people in the path of suffering, and to do that in a place of reflecting back to them some of the things that I've been through in my own path of awakening, and in this place of knowing myself, to understand where they are in their journey and to help them in whatever way possible. Not from a place of ego, like I have the answers, but hey, I'm on this journey with you. And this is from my experience, what I feel I can share with you to help you. So, and I'm sure if you ask me again in another 2 years, that will be something different.
Yeah.
But this path of transformation.
So why is that important for people to understand and implement into their lives, do you think?
Yeah, so I'm definitely what is identified as a wounded healer. I've been through a lot of traumatic experiences as a child.
Yeah.
And largely unbeknown to me in my adult life, they have been impacting me and affecting me. And a lot of this is a subconscious, a lot of this is within the shadow, so it's kind of hidden a little bit. And it shows up in ways that are unconscious. So the more these things can be brought into conscious awareness, and the more they can be given space to, for want of a better term, heal, then it allows me to be more connected to who I am and to be more present. So if I'm here in a place of, in my wound, so I'm connecting with you, I'm chatting with you, but I'm thinking, oh, you're judging me because I got judged so much as a kid, I'm not necessarily able to be present because I'm thinking all of these things in my mind. Where if I have somehow healed this part of me where you may judge me, and that's okay, that's you, that's your journey, that doesn't need to affect me. I can be here still in loving presence with you. So it's how we live life. It's how I wish to live life more, because in this place of being fully conscious, fully aware, fully present, that I can bring all of me. If I'm stuck in these wounds of the past, then I'm telling a narrative. I'm not in the present moment, and there is only ever one time, and that is now. That old cliche: the best gift you can give to somebody is your presence.
Yes.
And it's so true. So I feel the more I do to heal myself, the more I can be present, the more I can be in loving presence with another. And so that's a gift that I greatly receive. I love when people are fully present with me. And one of the ways I've learned to be present with others is to start working on my shadows, to start working on the wounding that I've had from the past. So that's why I feel it's important, because it brings me into the present moment, and so I can connect in a deeper way with others.
Sure. And it's always a sort of work in progress, or is there a destination that you reach, or this is just a journey, or is there an ideal sense of self? Is it a sense of self, or just an ideal person that you're trying to arrive at?
I know it's a mix of both, actually. There's a place I'm striving to be. I want to be more connected. I want to be more conscious. I want to be more loving. And so, of course, this is where I'm trying to get to. But if there is I want to be like this, then I'm necessarily attached to becoming something. if I then I'll have a story, then I'll have a way of like, oh, I've got to do this, to do this, to do this, to be that person. And I might lose myself because I'm associated with, being a certain way. But is that my authentic way? I may see that you are like, there's somebody that I admire and they do these things, so then I emulate them, I copy them. But again, that's not necessarily me. So it's like, what is my authentic truth? What is true for me? So sometimes in the seeking to become something, I lose myself. So the more I can relax and just be present with trying to heal myself, then I'm going to end up exactly where I need to be.
Sure. Is there any? Because it's a tough one. I'm constantly trying to. Well, I'm probably slipping into that trap now straight away. But I mean, are there any things that people can look out for to get the sense that they are living their most authentic self?
I'm really trying to figure that out myself.
Sure. It's a conundrum. For
yeah,
sure.
It is. It's like, I think it's just a process of being content, being happy with who you are or where you're striving to be.
Yeah.
And I use the word striving loosely in that sense. But if I'm waking up and I'm unhappy multiple days in a row, then something needs to change. Steve Jobs speaks about this when he was, if you're waking up and looking at yourself in the mirror again and again, and not happy with your day, then something needs to change. And so I've sort of taken that on myself. So, okay, where can I find the joy in each day? Where can I find happiness in each day? And if I'm not able to find that, then there's something fundamentally wrong.
Sure.
So what can I do to change that? And it can be small things. It doesn't need to be, I suddenly need to leave a relationship and travel to the Himalayas and find myself. It can be something very subtle. Like, okay, I'm going to do a gratitude ritual this morning, or when I wake up in my, a classic one is don't touch your phone for the first hour of the morning. Get up, drink a glass of water, scrape your tongue if that's something you enjoy doing, getting all the sleep off your tongue. Then going and standing in the light for 15, 20 minutes. Natural lights, your circadian rhythm can start to move. All of these little things can have a big impact and get you really set up for the day. That is something I think a lot, like how you start your day sets your day,
Yes.
And often the first thing we do in the day is to make the bed, right? So how well do you make your bed? Do you just throw your duvet back on and then it's just a bit of a scrumpled heap? Or do you like set it up not in like a very militaristic kind of way, everything needs to be creased, but am I happy with this first thing that I've done in a day? And if I am, then okay, this is now how I'm going to do the rest of the things in my day. I'm going to get them to a level that I feel satisfied with rather than just rushing it or anything else. So, how you start your day, set your day.
And this is individual to the individual. Everybody has different things, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I hear loads of podcasts, loads of different routines, morning routines that a lot of people that we listen to set out and say they do with their day. What would you say are your personal things that you start the day off with?
Yeah, so much as to what I was saying, like I like to get up. I do like a tongue scrape.
Yeah.
Just do my ablutions first thing and then, make the bed, have some yoga, do a meditation. Doing yoga before the sit just allows the body to relax much more comfortable in the sit. When I'm sitting, obviously making sure my hips are above my knees, etc., etc. Sure. Just then allowing my body to be ready for then some breath work that I like to finish off with as well. So, this is like important. It doesn't need to take us an awful amount of time. You could do this in half an hour, a very quick fire round. I find an hour is a nice time lapse to do that. Then get up, go and drink good fresh water, as fresh as you can, and then just start the day from that. Yeah. So plan the day as well as much as possible.
Yeah.
I love optimizing. It's one of the things I enjoy doing, getting into flow state. These are some of the things that I spend a lot of time trying to optimize. So setting out what do I want to achieve for the day, and not necessarily what do I want, not just what do I want to achieve, but what am I going to be able to achieve that's going to have the biggest impact. So I might have 10 things that I need to do for that day, and I then want to put them into a priority. So there's a thing called eating the frog, which is a horrible term, but it's like, if you needed to eat a frog, would you rather eat the frog first thing in the morning and get it out of the way? Or would you rather eat it in the evening and you're worrying about it all day? I think most people would want to just get it over and done with.
Yeah.
So this is like, get the most important thing done. And then if you don't achieve, you don't do anything else for the rest of the day, you've done the biggest thing that's had the biggest impact.
Sure.
And so like just optimizing the list. And it's incredible how productive you can feel if you prioritize impact as well as like urgency. So in terms of the way I'd sometimes prioritize them is like, what is urgent, what is important? This is known as the Eisenhower matrix: urgency, importance, in different boxes. Not important, not urgent. And then I'll put my task into those quadrants, and then that will guide my day as well. So I'm having as much impact. And you see this a lot with successful entrepreneurs. It's like, how does this person do so much in one day?
Yeah, right.
Right? And it's about this prioritization. They probably have 500 things to do just like we do, but they just prioritize it in a way that makes them successful. And so, again, Elon Musk talks a lot about picking the signal out of the noise. When like him, he's got 5-6 big companies. How can you manage all of those so effectively like he appears to do? And again, it's highlighting what the priorities are.
Okay.
So
I see. I hear a lot of people talk about flow state, as you just mentioned there.
Yeah.
And from different people that I've talked to, some are of the opinion that when you reach flow state, your day is very much happening sort of through you, not necessarily something that you're controlling. When you're in flow, it's all happening perfectly, all at the right time.
Yeah.
What's your idea of what flow state actually is and what that feels like to experience? Is it something that you're micromanaging every second and then it's working, or it's something that is...
Yeah, I think it's quite the opposite to micromanaging.
Yeah.
There's actually a big piece is surrender. In fact, a lot of life, I think, is about surrendering.
Wow.
Like to surrendering to the present moment, surrendering to what is.
Sure.
And with flow state, it's when you look at your watch and you're like, where have those last 3 hours gone? Or your phone. Maybe many people don't wear watches these days, but it's like, where's that time gone? And artists get it. You must do this when you get into your music. It's like, wow, you've been playing your guitar, and like, wow, where's all that time gone?
Yeah.
And this is flow state. So chemically, what's happening in your brain is called, I think the name of it, and forgive me if I get this wrong, is prefrontal cortex hyperfrontality, something similar to this, which basically means there's a part of your brain that dissolves everything else out and just allows you to be super focused.
Wow.
Super present with what is. And there's various things that can help influence that. And there are ways in which you can get into flow state. There are triggers and there are pillars that allow you, and there's cycles of flow state as well. So you may do one cycle, and then you can start to get into more cycles after this as well, by triggering flow state. There might be certain music that you like to listen to. There might be some binaural beats. There's a way that you have your desk set up. There might be a favorite place that you like to work. All of these things help your mind get into, this is where we go into a hyper productive state.
Okay.
So there are various things that can help with this. But yeah, like flow state is that sense of you're being challenged in a way that it's not too difficult and it's not too easy. There's enough challenge to keep you engaged, but there's not too much challenge that you're feeling overwhelmed, and it's not too simple that you're getting bored. So they call it also like a Goldilocks.
Sure.
So it's like the porridge in Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, it's just right.
Yeah.
So if you've got these tasks that are just right. So if you're finding yourself doing something boring, like, okay, I'm going to do some accounting, I've got to do my books, right? So you might challenge yourself, okay, this is kind of data entry, a bit dull. you probably use AI for that these days. But anyhow, let's just imagine you're doing some data entry,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, how can I do that? How can I do this? Okay, every 10 entry, I'm just going to stand up, spin around, sit back down, and then do this. Or I'm going to challenge myself. Okay, I'm going to do, 20 things in a minute, and then see if I can get to 19, 15, so you're keeping yourself engaged, even in something that's quite mundane.
Sure.
And again, this is helping you get to that point of challenge within that task that keeps you engaged.
Cool. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've definitely noticed in hindsight at the end of the day when I've been in that state. And I sort of know when I'm in it, but you're absolutely right. It's like time completely changes and disappears. And yeah, for me, that does happen with creating music or any kind of creative outlet that I'm actually interested in. Seems to be where I hit that the most. So that's why I'm trying to focus on the things that I love doing.
Yeah.
Because it tends not to appear when you're doing the things that you don't like doing. I don't know whether there's a correlation there, but
yeah, I think there definitely is. Things that light you up inside are definitely going to be things. There's so the godfather of flow state is a guy called Michał Csikszentmihalyi, right? Is an Austrian guy, and a lot of his work was then carried on famously by Steve Kotler and Jamie Wheel in a book, Stealing Fire. And they I forgot my train of thought here, which is very unflow state like. But where was I going with this?
The pursuing the things that you like doing
Yeah.
to achieve flow state, and whether there's a correlation with that.
Yeah. So actually, there's another guy whose story I was trying to remember his name, but he talks about artists. With an artist, if you commission to give them a job and you direct them too much, their artwork is never satisfying to people.
Right.
Where if you say, this is something that I want, and you have creative way to express it, people really love what they receive. So somebody might commission you for a song, right? If you're told it needs to be this many beats, this length, we need these instruments, and it needs to be these type of vocals, there's those constraints. Then it's kind of icky, right? Where it's like, I want this music to have this theme. You're probably going to dive into it and create something much more beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. I actually worked for a freelance personalized song company at one point, where you're on a database and people hire you to write a personalized song for either a birthday occasion, a newborn baby, a engagement, or something like that. And yeah, you're absolutely right, because there's a lot of pressure when you're trying to get into that creative space, but you've got loads of constraints. You've got to turn it around in 3 days, get it to a certain standard, write the song, and get it demoed and stuff, until over the next 3 days, whilst also following these constraints. And there's a box where you must fit these details into the song.
Yeah.
And people have some very, very restrictive things where it's like, this must be in the song, and I'm trying to rhyme island girl from Guam
right
into the song, and kind of finding a poetic balance.
Yeah.
Also, so
isn't purple one of those words that's really difficult to find?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Purple, orange.
Yeah.
And yeah, things like that. So yeah, it's it can be very challenging. But yeah. So no, it's interesting. I've just been fascinated with that whole flow state idea, because I wasn't sure how much of it was true, because I wasn't seeing myself getting into it very much, or whether it was just because of what I was doing. So no, it's interesting. Do you find that you get into that most of the time, or?
Again, I'm not an expert at doing it for myself, but there are triggers that I can do. There's a certain stack that I take in the morning, like nootropics, that I take, that certainly help with that as well.
Oh, wow.
And different nootropics I'll take at different times. Again, I like biohacking.
Cool.
And things like exercise is important for me as well. It just keeps me feeling more alive. So yeah, if I am not doing these things, then I can find that it becomes more difficult to get into flow state. Right. So there's a famous quote by the American president who used to wear the top hat. Isn't this funny? I'm forgetting names right now. Not the one your country needs
Abraham
you.
Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
So Abraham Lincoln is attributed with this quote as like, if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this is
yeah,
this
sure.
is, you know, if I'm not in a good place myself, then anything I'm going to do is going to be more difficult. So if you feel tired, it's probably better to go to sleep for an hour and then do what you need to do rather than try and force yourself through it. Because you spend 4 hours doing what you could probably do in 3 hours or 2 hours if you had a kip.
Sure,
You
just
know?
like I was doing behind the cameras
Exactly.
before we filmed this podcast. I was asleep.
So you're ready to go. Said hi, and then that's it.
And you very kindly woke me up.
But you know, that's it's an important thing to do. So you're a class example.
Yeah, well, I feel a lot better for it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, had I not, I would have really struggled more than I might be now. No, it's interesting. I follow your.
By the way, do you want your headphones still on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I know you said before about taking them off. It's up to you, but
yeah.
Sorry to
keep. No, it's fine. Just as long as we keep it at a good distance, should be fine. So I follow you on social media as well. I believe I am Leon Avalon.
Correct. Yes.
Is your social profiles, and I love viewing your content. Very insightful stuff, and the theme that I mainly catch your stuff popping up on is relationships. And I find that topic very interesting because something that a lot of people have in common is trying to navigate relationships, and some people might lack certain tools to make their relationships thrive a lot easier. So I would say, what would you say are the attributes that are most needed for two people to thrive and have longevity in their relationships?
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for your comment about
Sure,
me.
yeah.
I appreciate that. And I also have to give credit to my beloved at the moment, Ali Avalon. We share the same surname.
Great. Shout out to Ali Avalon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, she has been a great teacher for me. Like incredibly humbling for me to be in a relationship with somebody that is so driven towards truth, and clarity and precision in terms of, you know, how to express herself. And yeah, she's probably been one of my greatest teachers in this sense. So to your question, like, what do people need? I think trust is a fundamental piece of any relationship. If this trust starts to get broken or eroded through many of the shadow aspects that show up in many relationships, then it can start to spiral in ways that you don't necessarily want it to spiral.
Yeah.
And for many people, it doesn't feel safe to speak the truth, because when we've done that as kids, when we've done that in other relationships, it's not been received in a way that's felt safe, you know, or it's been reflected in a way that for me personally, like, I've caused harm to the other person. That might not be my intention, but I perceive that they have been hurt by it because I'm speaking my truth. And this could be because they're also carrying a wound that I'm now triggering in them because, you know, I'm speaking my truth. So there's a lot around trusting oneself, and then being able to share authentically my own desires, my own needs, my own boundaries with others as well. So trust is a very, very big piece, and I think to practice that often in the relationship as well is important. So having sort of conscious time with another where you speak about this.
Yes.
You know, people call that processing. People may call it I don't know, all kinds of things. Conscious time together, depends how hippie or woo-woo one might want to sound with it, but it's like giving dedicated time to talk about friction points in the relationship.
Sure.
Because the thing is, when somebody comes to you with something, they're not coming with you to hurt you. They're not coming with you to argue with you. They're coming with you because they want to love you more. And something is getting in the way of them loving you.
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
So when somebody says something that doesn't feel congruent or doesn't feel like comfortable, it's like, okay, what is this person really trying to say to me? Because they're coming from a place of love. They're coming from this deep-seated place of like, hey, I feel uncomfortable in this scenario, and this is how I want to tell you about it. They might not deliver it in the best way, right? They might not have the right words, or they might fumble, but it's just trying to sit with what is the root, what is behind all of this, what is causing the pain in them, and how is that perhaps triggering me? And this is a time, weirdly, is like trying to draw you closer together rather than trying to push you apart. It's like, I want to feel you more, I want to love you more, and if we can remove this barrier, I think we can do that with each other. So that can be very triggering. I've been triggered so many times in these types of things, and I continue to, because there are wounds that come up for me as a child. There are behaviors that my partner might be expressing that remind me of being told off as a kid, or being shouted at by a teacher in school, or being bullied by somebody, whatever it might be. So my unconscious is acting from a place of hurt. It's not me who I want to be, the more sort of conscious Leon. This is my little kid that's screaming and shouting like, hey, this doesn't feel good. Sure. So sometimes I can notice this in the moment, and I'll be like, okay, I'm taking a breath. Maybe I want to hold my inner child in that moment. I want to feel them and go, okay, where is this coming from? And notice that actually my partner isn't her in that moment. She's a representation of this teacher shouting at me, as an example.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, I've got you. And there are techniques I can do. Take a deep breath. I can do a psychological sigh. I can work with breath. I can go for a walk. I can do an emotional release. There are tools to help with many of these things. It's just then having the awareness to say, hey, love, I'm not feeling you in this moment. I just need a moment to connect back to myself so I can come back to love between us.
Yeah.
And
wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was going to be my next question about what you thought were the most effective tools when you're in the moment. It's very difficult to practice using those tools when you are triggered. What out of the ones that you were saying, what would you say are the most effective things that anybody can use just to keep grounded and not act on that sort of heat in the moment impulse of emotion?
Yeah, I think that's quite individual
in
some ways, but I'll try and be, what might have the biggest impact is again connecting to self. Like when you feel that there's rage and anger, and this is another piece, like anger's so shamed, but anger is just an expression of something. It's something coming up and coming through, particularly as men, if we're anger, that can often mean that we're going to then start being aggressive. It's not always the case, and often it's not the case. Anger is just like, okay, there's an emotion in me that doesn't feel good at the moment. I need to move this. It's just energy moving. Okay, so it's like, okay, let me feel this. So to come back to self, to have a moment, to breathe. Often when people are moving into a state of trigger, they start to tense their body. They start breathing from the upper chest. They'll be squeezing, they'll be holding really tight, because it's like I'm bracing for impact because I feel there's more threat coming.
Right.
Yeah. Or I'm so angry here, I just need to to release. So again, don't shame that and don't necessarily try and squash it down. If this anger's there, doing an emotional release process can be good. So it can be turning around to your beloved and saying, hey, I just need to move this energy. So it can just be stamping on the floor. It can be screaming into your hand. The hand scream is incredible. Just moving this energy so it's not stagnant and not stuck.
Sure.
Can be just taking 3 breaths. Okay, I just need to breathe here for a moment. And then just long exhale out. So breathing in for 4, out for 7. And then when you're breathing out for 7, just like you're going through pushing through a straw.
Yeah.
Or then the psychological sigh, where you take a breath in and then a sip at the top. Sound is a beautiful thing too. You know, just even that one breath now, I feel more relaxed.
Yeah.
You know,
Actually, absolutely correct. Yeah.
And a lot of it is often the work to do with us. You know, I can project a lot of this on my partner, and I can say, you need to calm down, you need to do this, you need to do that, where I can maybe invite them to do it. Say, hey, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by you at the moment. Can we have a moment of pause? Can we find some space to come back together, have a cup of tea together? One of the things I do sometimes with Ali is if the words are too much, then I say, okay, can we just put our bodies together and just start moving? So we lean on each other, and then our bodies, and it becomes a bit more animalistic in terms of just pushing each other and like play fighting a little bit. And then afterwards, like, we didn't need words at all. It's just this energy between us that needed to move and shake and be removed, you know, because the body knows a lot of the time, and the mind is just trying to understand and to express it, and then that's going through the filter of psychological history.
Yeah.
So sometimes just allowing the body to move.
Sure.
You know, sometimes we'll just have a pillow fight.
Yeah?
You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And it's like, do you know what? I need to be hit by a pillow right now because I was a dick a minute ago. So I was like, okay, you know, taking some accountability to go, yeah, I was out of line there.
Wow.
You know, and this is also another big piece that I've been working through with Ali as well, is, you know, putting my hand up when I'm wrong. You know, the therapist we work with is she's amazing. One of the things she encourages to do is, if somebody says, you know, this is what I'm feeling right now, this is what I'm hearing from you, would you mind trying that on? Right? So she may say, hey, I feel gaslit by you at the moment, which is a trigger word for me. I'm like, I don't gaslight. You know?
Okay.
And she's like,
right.
can you try it on? It's like, okay, I'm gaslighting you right now. It feels uncomfortable. I'm gaslighting you right now. Actually, there feels to be a bit of truth in that. Like, I'm gaslighting you right now. I'm like, yeah, actually, you know what? I am doing that. I'm not doing it consciously, but there's a version of myself that is feeling threatened. So I'm trying to manipulate the situation so the good me can stay intact, because this thing that I said that was nasty, I don't want to take accountability for that. So I'm trying to make a scenario up, you know, and not letting you actually really see me. So I'm speaking a narrative. I'm actually, in that moment, I'm manipulating your reality, you know,
right,
and not allowing you to be with me in the truth.
Yeah.
You know, or I'm not allowing I don't want to be in the truth with you also.
And again, it's not a conscious thing.
Right. Yeah.
I've been caught in that many times myself, with previous partners, and it's awful because you reach, I don't know whether you've, I'm sure you've experienced this, but it's when tensions are so high and you're back and forth with the defenses are up, and there might be a bit of gaslighting on both sides, and then it just turns into this thing where you just don't know where you're at you're completely lost.
Yeah.
And now I don't really know who's right and who's wrong, or maybe that doesn't even matter.
Right.
But I love what you were saying about just the energy moving, not necessarily need for words. It's really powerful. What can you give me an example of what the hand scream is?
So the hand scream is just where you put one hand in front of the other.
Yeah.
And then you put it over your mouth, and then just when you're sort of wiggling your hips and your body and your shoulders, just moving the energy and then allowing the energy to come out through the mouth. So it's like,
okay.
And then just letting it in. If you didn't have a laptop on your
if I didn't have a laptop, I'd be hang on, let me give this a go.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just a release of
just allowing it. And the other thing to do, what's very similar, is do that but with a pillow, because then the energy isn't blocked by your hands. It's then just coming through the pillow as well. But you want to breathe from your belly, not from your throat. Otherwise, you're going to strain your throat.
Okay.
So the energy is coming from deep down. It's like you're sort of purging
this
energy up and out. And It can be great. Like when you started
Love
doing
it.
that with your partner a few times and she says something and then you just do a hand scream instead of like coming back. It's like, okay, where's the love? Where's the love? Come
Sure.
back to love. Where's the
Yeah.
love in this place? Because ultimately that's what I'm striving for, is to love the other and love myself as much as possible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, and it takes time to master
Yeah.
these things, right?
Yeah. And I think a big piece as well is not to beat yourself up when you can't do it or when you forget or like shit that went big quick, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been in that as well. It's like, okay, like apologize. And I mean this in a way of apologizing, not saying sorry, right? And there's a different energy, because often they say that if you're saying sorry, it's for you. So I'm going to say sorry because I feel bad about what I did to you. So I'm saying sorry because, you know, it's easy for me to get over it. Where if I have an apology, I'm taking more accountability for what happened. And there's like an apology script that you can go through as well.
Right.
Like, hey, you know, I want to apologize for X, Y, and Z. I can imagine in that situation it would have made you feel ABC. I'm trying to remember the script myself. And this is what I want to do to take accountability for that. Is there anything else you need from me to move through this?
Sure.
You know? And so then at that point, I can say, actually, I didn't feel you when you were saying this piece. I'd like you to say that again. Or, you know, if what you're, how you're going to fix that in the future doesn't land for me, could we negotiate around these bits? And so you get to a point where that conflict then feels resolved.
Okay.
Rather than it then staying in your field and the energy of the relationship and then just coming back up over and over and over again. And this is the spiral. This is how those negative spirals keep on happening, because you're not clearing the field, you know?
Okay.
And of course, nobody's going to be perfect. So things are going to happen. And that's okay. We can forgive each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're just doing it on the same things over and over and over again, then the relationship just feels like it's going nowhere.
Yeah. I would like to run through a couple of things that maybe people will experience, or certainly I have, and hear your thoughts on what. I mean, sometimes I need a bit of time
Mm-hmm.
to have really processed what has happened. So, say in the moment, you might reach some sort of resolution where you've apologized for something.
Mm-hmm.
But later on in the day, and maybe this just goes against being present, but sometimes I can't help it, and I'm sure other people can't. Later on in the day, I've actually weighed up a little bit more about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something that I didn't say have the other person address of what I didn't like that they did, or something like that. So is there a way of coming back to something later on, or is that just the time to let it go? Or what's the right way to tackle something where you're like, you know what, actually I didn't fully agree with this, but I didn't have the time earlier to say it?
Yeah, or you weren't so conscious of it at that point because your nervous system was dysregulated or jacked up in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's like, is it necessary? Is it kind? You know, to bring these things back up. Like, do I really need to bring this up? And if it's like, well, actually, this is the 5th time I felt this after conflict, then yeah, this is something that I know is going to keep coming back. But is this something that, like, you know, I don't need to bring that up in this moment? It's like there's not that much energy attached to it. Is it something that's going to keep me looping on it? Is it something that I'm doing or saying because I want to be the one that's winning?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the upmanship.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
I want to be right, and I don't feel like I came out victorious in this.
Okay, yeah.
You know, but if I say this thing, then I have the upper hand. You know, so it can be like that. What's the motive really behind it?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not kind, you know, like how can we be kinder to each other?
Sure.
And again, in a loving way.
Mm.
So yeah, I think if it's something that keeps repeating and it keeps coming up, then I think to speak to that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just let it go. And if it's important, it will come back. You may not want it to come back, but it will come back. And then it's like, now this is the third time this has come up. Okay, we're not able to move this.
Okay. So a little bit of patience.
I think so.
A little bit of patience.
Yeah. And Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk, he has a book called Anger. He speaks about boiling the potato. He says, like, just sit with it a little bit, just sit in it. This is why meditation is good as well. Or just write, and often you may find, like, oh, actually this isn't about her or him or them. This is my stuff. This is my story, and what is happening there is actually reflecting more back to me, something that I need to deal with.
Sure.
And to process deeper. So free writing, meditation, and just having a good chat with somebody as well. This is also another big topic that I love is men's work. Just sitting with men, sitting with brothers, and being able to process, to go deep, to hear each other, because often as men we can feel very isolated and very alone. So I think it's imperative for many people to be able to excuse me, to share with other brothers,
Yeah.
And particularly there's not so many great male role models these days, or many of us, people that I know at least, haven't grown up with great male role models, and so we can get that support from each other, and get that sort of level of accountability, so I could be saying, man, my partner, that they keep bringing up this all the time, and and the other person just go, dude, why are you stuck on that? They can just call you up, not necessarily calling you out, but it's like, what's really behind this? And you can go deeper with them, and so I think there's a lot of power in that too. So not everything needs to be processed with your partner too, or with the person you're having the conflict. So we're talking very relational here, but relation isn't necessarily with a beloved. It could be a sister, a brother, a cousin, a uncle, a best friend, your dog walker, whatever.
Yeah.
These are all areas where your energy is getting stuck in different places, and all of these little hooks that have got you, can't allow you to move forward and express yourself fully.
Sure.
So, yeah, also known as energy leaks. So every now and again, it's nice to do a energy leak review.
Yeah.
It's like, just where do I feel all of my attention is going right now in my life, and just start writing about it. Again, it's good in a diary.
When men are seeking out other men for to reflect on what you might not want to be discussing with your partner, you might be leaning on, like you said, your brothers.
Mm.
How do you feel like what kind of people do you seek out in order to know that you're in a space where I'm going to actually get a reliable sort of reflection here? Or because you might just have your best mate who isn't very informed and is just going to say a load of stuff that might be damaging to then what you bring back to your partner, or something like that. So I mean, where can people go to if they might not have a great friend circle? It's quite toxic.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of online places. There's so many. But yeah, you can just Google, or Claude or whatever you want to do these days. There'll be a bunch of them. There are some very good sort of institutions as well, like the Mankind Project is one place as an example where you can go and find brotherhood circles.
Okay.
There are many great facilitators out there that run retreats, men's retreats. There's many that I've been on as well and assisted. One that I really like the founders in the UK, but they do it around the world, is called Emergence Brotherhood. Very sort of deep a little bit out there
Okay.
kind of retreat. But another one many people like, and I've heard mixed reviews about it, it's called Sacred Sons as
Sacred
well.
Sons. Okay.
But that carries a bit more of the masculine archetype, where you kind of go into a circle and you might sort of box with somebody.
Okay.
So there are different flavors for different people.
Okay.
So for me, I like to be in containers that carry a lot of energy, because the energy in me is stuck through lots of energy. It got stuck through a big expression. And so for me, a way to move that is through another big expression. I move softly with it. It doesn't like shake it loose in the same kind of way. So I need like the similar force to shift the similar force that it was imprinted into my system with. So I like high energies that are, or containers that have a lot of energy. And other people are not like that. And their nervous system needs to be worked with when it's very down regulated, when it's very slow. The facilitators, they're often speaking very softly, and they take their time to express. And I'm not trying to parody them here. It's very, very powerful. But there are different, it's where to find your tribe.
Yeah.
And you may go to some places and you might hit a few wrong places before you find your home. But it's definitely worth trying. And a big piece of that as well is to work with your boundaries. Because if you're going into these circles and people are projecting on you or saying things to you, you can just say, hey, I'm going to pause you right there. This doesn't feel true to me. And I respect you and I thank you, but I don't want to continue this conversation, or I don't want to continue this process that we're in, And one of the most powerful things you can say to somebody is no. Right? If we can reclaim our no, we have more sovereignty over our life. And particularly in the UK, our P's and Q's, our please and thank yous are so strict, from a very young age.
Right.
You've got to be polite, you've got to play with this kid, you've got to do this, And so we're indoctrinated from a very young age to not stand up for our boundaries. I don't want to play in the sand with that kid. I don't, but I know you've got to go and play with Jason, because, or whoever it may be, right? I don't think I know a Jason from my childhood. So I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
But the deep dark recesses. But but being able to claim our no just frees up so much life force.
In what context would you say that it's in all aspects of?
Always have your boundaries. Does this feel true to me right now? Is this gonna and that's not to say no to everything, don't help other people, of course it's not, but it's am I doing this because it's something that feels true to me, or am I doing this because society tells me that I need to do it, or that my conditioning from childhood says that I need to do this thing? Because then you're just not living, you're not following your own path, you're following a path that somebody has prescribed to you.
Sure.
And I feel many people do this too. I definitely have. I went through the whole typical career progress, build a successful business, try and take the money from the business, then get the house, then get the car, then How fulfilled was I doing that? Not as fulfilled as I feel I am now, doing more of my sort of soul work in the world. And a lot of that has come through me being able to say no to things that don't feel aligned to me. And that can be challenging at times, and knowing what my truth is. And then also being okay with being wrong. Going, okay, I did this, and maybe I could have done this, and then going back to that person and going, actually, this now feels more aligned for me.
You were touching on going through the process of starting a business, selling that, and it, not maybe having as many answers as you thought, but with selling a business, there would come some sort of financial freedom and room to breathe there, which a lot of people might be in a situation where they don't have that. But how important would you say, how much has that had an effect on you having the space to do certain things, and how can people achieve it when they're not necessarily as financially free as,
Sure.
as selling a business.
Yeah, so I didn't sell a business. I just moved out of a business that I managed to sell some shares in.
I see. Right.
So just I don't want to mislead anybody there, but
Yeah.
but yeah, there was there became a financial reward through that in the end. That definitely gave me a lot of freedom. You know, allowed me to navigate and move around the world very freely for a while, go to many retreats, so I could, you know, start my inner journey, for want of a better term. So there definitely gave me a lot of that, a lot of space to do that. So I'm incredibly grateful for it.
Yeah.
And I equally did a lot to achieve that as well. I sacrificed a lot. So I'm not, you know, could I have done this while still doing another job that maybe didn't pay as well, but was very fulfilling? For sure.
Yeah.
You know, and I think many people are conditioned again to live in a certain way.
Yes.
And
mainly a capitalist mindset.
Yeah, very much so. Like,
yeah,
again, we're potentially enslaved into a capitalist way of living. You know, we've got to get the house, we've got to get the car, we've got to, you know, be the nuclear family. And there's a lot of beauty in that, and many people have enjoyed that, but you know, we're just then chasing something, you know, rather than it necessarily being what we want to do. And again, this comes from childhood. You know, it's in all the movies. You know, and I love movies, I love the TV, but there's so much programming that comes to us from this. Like, my version of love was always very Disneyfied. You know, I'd find somebody, I'd fall deep in love, there'd be these fireworks, and I'd find their slipper at the bottom of some stairs, whatever it might be, you know, this whole sort of story. And it just hasn't really followed that trajectory for me. You know, and for sure I've loved very deeply many people, but it doesn't have to be prescribed, you know. And when I was able to sort of relax a bit more into that, like, life is going to come through me rather than me trying to grab hold and attach and hook onto how I want life to be, the easier it is for me to get through the day, because I'm not sort of judging so much, or I'm not feel like I'm missing out. You know, there is a happening and there's a present moment, and I'm trying to be in that as much as I can.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I mean, so something that springs to mind as well, I guess I would ask, is wanted to talk a little bit about psychedelics, touching on psychedelics and how much and what part you think they play in shifting these mindsets. I'm sure people can achieve shifting this conditioning without using psychedelics as well, but what's your experience been with them? Yeah,
psychedelics have definitely been a big part of my awakening, if that's what we want to call it. And you know, probably 2017 was the first time I went and consciously worked with psychedelics. I mean, I actually first took acid when I was 14, you know, which is a young age. And and it was just like, let's just take this thing and let's just see what happens. And we're at parties, and we're, you know, there's weed and speed and all mushrooms and acid around. You know, it's kind of like the vibe of the people I was in. I was in an older crowd as well.
Right.
But still, you know, I think I took acid for recreational reasons, but it had a deeper impact in my psyche from that young age. You know, I had a lot of trauma in my life as I grew up.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, having that experience, and my brain, my neuroplasticity then just being rewired in a way that I could let go of some of this trauma in my life. And then I took mushrooms, and then many years later I was taking MDMA again for recreational purposes, but again it was rewiring my brain. allowing me to see the world in a slightly different way that I wanted, a life that I wanted to strive for. Again, not prescribing to how life wanted or that was being dictated to me, and having these psychedelic experiences, working with these medicines, although I didn't class them as that when I was younger, definitely had an impact on how I saw the world and my capacity to know that I can achieve what I want to achieve, that I'm not held back. And a lot of the conditioning doesn't have to apply to me. But then 2017, I went to Peru. I'd sat with the Shibibo and did 12 days of journeying with them. I think we drank the medicine, my partner at the time and I, Camilla, we imbibed the medicine 7 times during that, which was quite an intense journey. The way to see the world after that started to open up in a different way. And my fascination with psychedelics grew a lot more as well. And being in a place where I was with a very authentic experience, in the jungle, in a place called Iquitos in Peru, like actually, an hour and a half or so boat trip away from there. So really in the middle of nowhere, deep in a jungle, which is a medicine in and of itself.
Right.
But then to be with shamans, to be on a special diet and then drinking this medicine, it just really opened up. And then you have lots of space, to integrate. And integration is incredibly important. I would say integration is almost more important than taking the medicine itself.
Integration.
Yes. So to integrate, to make whole. Yeah. So like an integer. So when we experience the medicine, it's then how do we incorporate this into our life? How do we incorporate the teachings? Because if I take this medicine and I see, the way that I'm acting, it doesn't feel so aligned, and then I can go, okay, this is how I feel like I need to move. And then I go back into my life, my 9 to 5, my everything else. It's like, I'm just going to continue what I was doing. How can I make space even in my 9 to 5 to integrate what's happening? So I'm going to give myself I'm going to get up an hour earlier in the morning so I can do my yoga, or I can write, or I can sing, whatever it is that brings more of where I want to be into my life. And then this piece will then start to get bigger and bigger and bigger and influence you more and more and more. So then before you know, you're living that life. But if I just come back in and go, oh, that was a cool experience, speak to my friends about it, and then just continue doing the same things, guess what? I'm just going to go back to how it was.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
So integration is incredibly important. Otherwise, it's a peak experience. It's like going for a fairground ride.
Sure.
It's like, whoa, that was great. And then it's like, okay, now I'm just going to continue.
Okay, yeah.
And there's such a range of psychedelic medicines as well, that you can work with. Excuse me. So, I've worked with mushrooms, I worked with MDMA, I've worked with mushrooms as in psilocybin, worked with DMT, like ayahuasca, bufo, 5-MeO DMT, all in places where it is legal, of course.
Sure.
And it's been an incredibly rewarding experience, and it has been terrifying. And I've been in moments thinking, why the hell am I doing this?
Wow.
Why am I facing this again and again? And it can be, I've done 15 ayahuasca journeys, which is a lot.
50?
No, 15,
15.
5, or maybe, yeah. Anyway, let's approximate around this. Like, why am I keep coming back to this? What am I not learning? What am I not listening to?
Okay.
Oh, what am I not integrating? Right? And if I keep going back and being told the same things, then I'm not listening. I'm not listening to the teachings, and I'm not changing my life. And I'm going to the medicine because something doesn't feel right. And then if I'm being shown when I'm on these journeys, how I can improve or how I can change, or what is the direction to move in, and I'm not then integrating that, then I'm just going to get the same lesson every time I go. You know, and there are times I go back and I'm meeting the same thing, but it's like a spiral. You know, so I'm meeting the same thing back on that spiral, but it's at a different point. It's a different viewpoint. So it can be some trauma that I've had with my mother as a kid, but I'm not so, you know, it could be from when I was 5, and then later it can be from when I was 8, or, you know, and so I'm going to move through that journey of releasing the trauma that I have in my body with my mother as an example, you know. So that's why you can keep going back to the medicine and you will learn new things. But if you keep going back and you're being shown the same thing over and over and over again, it's because you're not changing that in your day to day.
Right.
You know? And I would say the most powerful medicine I've worked with is 5-MeO-DMT. It's an incredible deep medicine. They call it an entheogen, so like to have a divine experience with God. You know, okay. Many of the other journeys, there is a sense of self, and I am navigating, you know, and I still know myself.
Yeah.
But often with 5-MeO, there's the complete ego dissolution. So I will completely lose all sense of self, and I will blend into the divine, into one consciousness, into all that is, and the vastness of that, because it is everything. And to feel that, and there's no trauma, there's no story, there's no nothing, not even me. And so to experience that is such a blissful experience. And then I come from this infinite consciousness back into this finite human being. You know?
Wow.
So that can be like, that can be a big shock to the system. So there are ways of working with that medicine, so it sort of, you know, allows us to sort of come back in gradually. And that can be, it can be terrifying to have that sense of connection with pure bliss, pure love, and it can be divine, you know, to feel that. And yeah, it's then again just working through the process of integrating.
Sure.
And integrating those teachings.
So after having an experience with that vastness, everything, and the ego dissolution and no sense of self, which is what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
What does that then mean to be the individuals that we are when you've come back from that? What is there a significance? Is there a meaning of what we? I mean, I'm not. What is the meaning of life? But I mean, what do you then find yourself seeing when you're back being this in this state as an individual?
Sure. Yeah. And first off, for me to try and explain it as this vastness, as this.
Yeah.
You know, otherworldly thing, or not otherworldly, just this single consciousness, this divine love, is my ego trying to make sense of it.
Okay.
Which is far below the experience itself.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
So it's almost impossible to put into words.
Yeah, I would say, and many people speak to this. And I thank my ego for trying to make sense of it, because I live in it. I live with my ego all the time, so of course.
Sure.
But then had to continue to work with that. And again, a lot of it comes down to, like, I'm not so afraid of death anymore, because if I am going to this, which I believe I will afterwards, then wow, what a place. What a place. Then I remember the first time I worked with 5-MeO, the next day, thinking, why am I in this human experience when there's such bliss out there? You know? And it's like, okay, I've come here to learn something. I've come here to have an experience. I've come here to feel my edges, to know what it is to be in this form of existence rather than just be this vastness all the time. And again, this is my ego construct trying to make sense of it.
Sure.
You know, but for me, this is how it shows up. And just to know that, you know, there are moments of meditation, there are moments when I'm feeling stressed or anxious, I can just close my eyes and then just try and connect with that energy. And it's just, you know, it's what I would imagine when they speak about samadhi, nirvana. It's that level of consciousness, but just constant. You know, when people become fully enlightened, you know, this is the world that they are experiencing.
Wow.
So yeah, it's deeply profound, and it's very somatic. 5-MeO is a very somatic experience. So it's, you know, it's of the body. It's not so much you're thinking about it.
Wow.
So it's like a soul. My teacher with this, she talks about having like a soul chiropractic readjustment.
Okay.
You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting way of putting that, but from the sessions that you and I have explored together with somatic, kind of, even on that level, I can imagine it's a very accurate description of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. So I touched earlier on I am Leon Avalon, and just wondering if we could just summarize what that work is that you're doing, because we touched on it at the beginning, but what should people look to find when they visit your work?
Yeah, so it's quite a broad spectrum. So so I used to work in technology as it's a sector that I worked in before as a businessman. So now what I focus on is more inner technology. You know, so how can I upgrade my human operating system, for want of a better term?
Amazing.
So there are ways of which, as we discussed, that like, how can I come back to myself? How can I release some of the triggers that are holding me from being in my full expression and leading the life I want to lead? So the ways to become to become aware of our trauma, and then how to move through that, how to remove some of the suffering from our life, and that can be through somatic work, which can be through breath work, can be through medicine work in countries where that's legal, can be, just through talking, like a brotherhood, so having one-on-one sessions with people as well. So I do one-on-ones with people for breath work, and then also more for coaching. So there's coaching just offering as well. And the way to find out what I teach around relationships, as you said before, is on my Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, on all of these platforms, where I keep posting on there as well.
I am Leon
Avalon. Yeah,
great.
And you can find me there, and just jump on, book a discovery call with me, 15-minute call. We can have a chat, see if there's resonance, and drop deeper.
Amazing. Leon, we've covered quite a few things, and I wanted to thank you as well for also accepting the opportunity that we had, because you are usually here, there and everywhere, all over the globe, quite hard to track down in person. I know that we talk over Zoom or whatever digital interface we get, but thanks so much for allowing this space and talking about these things. I think they're so important, which is why I wanted us to talk about them, and hopefully people can take something from this stuff and go on that journey.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate you doing this and bringing this awareness to your community and wider field. Continue the good work, brother.
Thank you so much. We should do it again. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.